Okay, dear colleagues, let's continue our today's conference. My name is Anton Baganov. I'm going to moderate our next session of this panel discussion. This is culture of handling big data, using of big data in the state governance. We have Yuri Zubov, head of the Rospatent, Pavel Labaznov, representative of PNS of Russia, and we have our guests online, two colleagues, Alexander Solovyov, deputy of deputy head of Rosakkreditatsiya, and Andrei Gorobets, director of Big Data and Digital Transformation Department of the Ministry of Enlightenment of Russian Federation. Big data analytics, use of big data is the topic which is really relevant for digital transformation and public administration improvement. Hello, Alexander. Good day. Glad to see you. It's not possible to live without analytics, without data analysis, and digital transformation is not possible without it. So based on big data analysis, we're able to get relevant information where we can direct our efforts, what support we can organize to develop science and inventorship, and to ensure the global development, technological development of our country. I'd like to address my first question to Mr. Gorobets. I hope, Andrei, you can hear us. Unfortunately, we can't see you. So meanwhile, please, Alexander, could you tell us how Rosakkredititation was successful in big data analytics and use of big data in its work and in public administration improvement? Since last year, the government of the Russian Federation set up the breakthrough in end-to-end technologies use practice, and big data plays an important role here. Hello, dear colleagues. I hope you can hear me. We are working on the national accreditation system. In our system, we have around 9,000 accredited entities. These are laboratories and certification bodies which estimate different products in the market. Around 90% of products around us are certified in accredited laboratories, and the data about these tests are uploaded to our system. Annually, we register around 90,000 certificates, about 1 million conformity declarations, and we upload in our system around 15 million of test reports. And Rosakkreditatsiya is one of the first agencies of Russia which migrated to register model. All our certificates and declarations are register records, which is legally valid. And part of data which we receive come in PDF format and in the form of scans. So for our agency, the main goal now is to transform them to machine-readable format. There are a number of projects in this sphere. In terms of data collection, I hope that colleagues discussed it many times. A very important thing is to provide cleanness and structure format of this data, to be able to use this data for further analytics and make proper decisions, because the decisions we make in our agency or when we prepare analytics for our supervisory bodies based on the authentic data and relevant data. So if we speak about the issues we're facing, we are now leading a number of projects for machine-readable data, and we face the problem that the whole regulatory basis is written on a complementary language. And to set the rules, we should translate it to the discrete mathematical language in order to build up all algorithms of input control for data to make sure data are clean and authentic. This is a very labor-intensive project. Apart from building up algorithms, we have to study the whole databases, and if you know what technical regulation is, you know that this is a huge volume. What are we practically doing? We are handling two main problems in terms of data collection. First one is accreditation of our certification bodies and labs. These labs and bodies can get around 1,000, 2,000 scans. It's very difficult to work with it manually. Last year we launched a project on electronic space configurator, and we are now in progress of digitizing all those spaces. Another project is to translate protocols and test reports into machine-readable format. Some labs already provide to us protocols in XML format, and we can further on analyze it. What does it give us? You can imagine the volumes: 1 million declaration, 1.5 thousand million test report. Of course, it is very hard to process the whole volume manually, even impossible. Probably it is possible, but you need a lot of people and a lot of personnel for that. And machine-readable data and operating algorithms with this data based on statistics, multifaceted analysis, multidimensional analysis, and AI help us a lot in doing this job. As for the AI, we've implemented this year a module which handles the modules downloaded in our system. The module takes those scans, reads them, carries out parsing, and afterwards, after this parsing, we can detect missing data and carry out proper control. This migration to machine-readable data and digitalization of processes at this stage allowed us to reduce our service time by 2 times, and we're not stopping on that. We're not complacent. We move on, and we improve and speed up all the processes, and our state services will be improved. It is clear that we improve the efficiency and productivity of our work, and the volumes of control is growing, because now it is done not by people but by robots, by machines. And the monitoring process over the accredited persons is now better due to these new approaches. The data which are uploaded now on the machine-readable interface are subject to the analysis by the algorithms. We can detect certain behavioral patterns of unfair persons, unfair users, and we can build up a certain risk-oriented approach in terms of carrying out further controlling measures. Generally speaking, when all projects will be finished, we will be able to translate everything in the machine-readable format. Apart from the utility of this work of our employees, we receive a lot of opportunities to create services both for the business, because if we would digitalize all tests and related to our products, if we digitalize all accreditation areas, we will be able to understand what will be the general volume needed for different kinds of products in terms of accreditation. And it will be a precious information for producers. What shall they embed in their operations to make sure that their products are absolutely safe in terms of the customs unions, regulations, and applicable legislation. From the consumer point of view, it's a great potential to get new services, to understand what product, how safe it is, because anyway there are borders, there are limits and ranges where the product should fit, where it's absolutely safe or potentially unsafe. The consumer should understand that. The process itself, the process of migrating to machine-readable data and data handling, is already of use, and this use is already seen. After the completion of this job, we will get very good effect. And we need also the data crossing utility. If the accreditation data be matched with the data of federal tax authorities, as a result, we can get the whole geography. We can see where and what kind of goods are of better demand, of higher demand, and we can offer new services for customers to provide it's absolutely safe. Third thing, what I have to mention here in terms of the utility of all digitalization processes is the following. Due to the fact that we now are using a register-based model for declarations and certifications, we work with businesses, with marketplaces and big retailers, with chains. For example, we just recently signed an agreement with 1C. We design services 1C, and every good coming to a marketplace, it is indicated in the goods card, and this card is automatically checked whether it has valid certificates or not, and the consumer can now distinguish between safe and unsafe goods, which is really relevant in terms of internet sales, online sales, and retail chains can also get the benefit of this system. In general, I have to evaluate this vector as positive and absolutely right. And we do see good effect of that, and we will see more in future. Thank you. Alexander, thank you very much for this introductory part. A great job was done of your team from Rosakreditacija. My next question right away to you, again, if possible. Data are being used many times and introduced many times in terms of cross-functional interaction. Is it possible to roll out and to deploy your experience with Rospatent, because you have similar tasks of checking documents for safe goods and checking documents for intellectual property? Probably you have some synergy or contact points where you can set up an inter-agency task force and work on a single platform where we can combine citizens, business, and authorities. What do you think? Is it possible? Yes, it's possible. Moreover, we've already discussed such projects, and really, well, generally speaking, the whole data exchange story should be seamless for the end user. And the utility of the fact that the end user comes into the system and see that the goods have the conformity certificate and the right holder is already registered in the system with the registered trademark, I think this would be a very useful. And in general, data exchange in our system is present. We have data in our system about all Russian producers, foreign producers, and I think setting up those relations will be beneficial both for us and for the end user. It will be also very good for further decision making, and for sure we are really open for this interaction. Thank you. Then my question goes to Mr. Labaznov. Pavel, I heard that in your agency you organize very well this data exchange process with other agencies and other interested parties. The federal tax authority has all information which probably can be useful for the citizens of the business. How do you organize your work with big data? Thanks, Anton, for your question. And as of traditionally, these federal tax authorities, not only tax authority, everything is related to taxes, is our domain, of course. But we also are responsible for registration of legal entities and sole proprietors. And we are also responsible for cash register equipment. in terms of electronic receipts and electronic documents. We absolutely went digital. We accumulate this data, and everything what we do leaves big tracks in our information systems. And historically, all our data, as the Ministry of Digital determined, this vector for the reuse of accumulated data, we have realized and implemented those in SMEF 2, 3, and other stages. Now we are at the brim of the fourth stage, where the data are received in a more comfortable way in terms of show windows from the agency parts, and open APIs can be used by any counterparties, including business, authorities, other agencies. All interested users can get the benefit of this system. I'm not going to tell you about the volumes of our accumulated data. These volumes are really huge. It's not out of for the sake of advertising, but the need is really huge for that. The need for processes is new. We need comfortable and convenient tools to satisfy these needs. Now we are in a piloted stage of absolutely new platform. The new data platform is in pilot operation. We are working together with business, with regional administrations and authorities, who can, in a convenient way, using the personal account, can order necessary data, can get this data, and can get these data in their information system. It means seamless integration of our accumulated data in our taxation service with information clients. Of course, it's not about the data which are limited by some access modes or like tax secret. We mean here those data cross sections which are valuable, but which don't bear any risks for taxpayers or individuals. All data which we are storing, they are used for our state services first and foremost. This is a kind of a quiet revolution, because we are now at the threshold of data self-service, when this end-to-end process is there. For example, Rospatent needs to get some data from the Federal Tax Service. Rospatent enters, logs in to his or her personal account, generates the query. This query is being considered by our service for certain limitations or access modes. Then all necessary mechanisms are prepared to retrieve those data, and Rospatent can get this data on a regular basis. And the information system of Rospatent can get it absolutely seamlessly. And this is almost the future which is already now with us in the present, in the pilot mode. And we believe that this will give us the biggest impact in terms of efficiency of data handling. And of course, for our own functions, for our own internal functions, we use it in full swing. For taxation calculation, if we take simple things like taxes, property taxes of the citizens, it's clear that to make a correct tax charge for we need to have high quality data, and as a result they will get it in their receipts. So we have all necessary processes built up to match, to clear the data, to reconcile data with all counterparties who are working with suppliers.
Or take, for example, our big data analytics, where we use different tools. For example, issuing the leveled accounting and records, where you take data from all the records and made available through our portal, which is also was launched as a service through the public portal. And we also collect and summarize reports and statements being sent to the public authorities. But we also do more complex analytics. If we use various technologies, we use polymatics, the Russian tools as well, and we also have our inspectors working with the updated and advanced tools. A fresh example of using our data, well, sometimes we also look into the attributes of data related to various values, but we also have a very well-organized processes. This is a process-focused approach. All our activities are really automated based on the processes. We have the process owners listed and registered. We have the models of those processes ago, but we realized that using some EMBA and interviews, that is manual approaches, it would not be enough. We have millions of those processes, and we want to tackle 100% sampling of all the process copies. We are now running a project of implementing the process mining to improve our efficiency. We use the process logs about the steps that the operators did, like putting in a certificate or making an entry of data, etc. We analyze how to accelerate our processes and how to avoid any violations in those processes when you may have a very unexpected result for the taxpayer. We are really very much interested in improving the quality of our processes. And this is a fresh example as to how we are using our data. It seems that it helps your internal improvements, but also the Federal Tax Service organizes data as a service, which you can order through a website and get some sample of those data. What about the barriers to such processes? I mean, there might be some obstacles on the way of requesting data and getting the data. We have a center of competence which is responsible for data being handled within the FTS, and they are the single entry point for the interactive services to aggregate the queries from the government, federal and regional authorities. For example, we are developing a roadmap to connect as many users as possible to that system. By the way, I should make a caveat here. The thing is that our attitude to data is driven by the interest in such data, because we really need to think about what would be the output of such data processing mechanisms, and we are interested in what our data is transformed into in terms of the finished product. If you're talking about some restrictions imposed by the tax code and Article 2, which is about the tax secret, perhaps the FTS will be able to clean all data of any personal or unnecessary or undisclosable information, and then such information may be presented through our website. And by the way, this is the way we are interacting with Rosstat, with the Russian Statistical Agency. And we are talking about the necessary degree of aggregation of data. If we need, for example, data about the targets of surveillance or observations and the users, we really need to avoid any personification of data. The text code is very adamant about that, and when we have a need and a value of data, then of course you can trace the editorial changes of Article 2 of the text code, and you would probably see what was driving those changes. Fortunately, sometimes interdepartmental processes are not that easy, and of course you need to appreciate what would be the future value of those data. It's a question of value and possible risks of disclosure. Technologically, you mentioned that it is easy to upload and download data from a database, from a departmental database. Theoretically, yes. Well, I mean, from the point of view of a user, it is quite easy. I mean, all you need to do is just maybe click 3 times, and then you get the data into your personal page. But the user probably would not know about the background of how this information is made available. For the team, for the technical team, this is a task that needs to be mastered. For example, we come to your database, we make a query and we ask for some data, and we want data in a certain format. Then a decision is made whether it is possible or not, and then it goes to your technical team, to your IT team. How much time does it take? A year and a half, 2 years to really come up with a solution? Well, I mean, some data are available already. Some need to be semantically described and methodologically described, but to implement a query, you need to decompose such a query into components, identifying the sources where you pull data out and how data sets are connected with each other, because we may have different sources of data, like registration, like cash registers, like text databases, and if the aggregate data are composed of several components, it may take some time to do so, and which may seem very easy for the user. Now, but again, these are not like personal data. So 3 aspects here, I understand. We can upload data if law permits so, and if data are not protected. Second, if there is some use or value of uploading data. And 3, if there is a technical capacity and opportunity to do so. Well, we discussed that with the representatives of the Ministry of Science and Trade about the digital stories and intangible. So we really talked about the quality of products, but the digital services that we're trying to come up with on the side of the business and government, and the interaction with the consumers. And here we also attach what Rospatent is doing. I wonder how the protection of IP can affect the efficiency of performance of companies. If I come to FTS and if I ask the question of whether the companies are starting paying more in taxes if they deploy digital solutions, can we have such an analysis or not? May I intercept here? Indeed, here we're talking about some interdepartmental interaction and cooperation. And such interaction is always in place, regardless of whether you have a business plan or a roadmap or not. And we are looking for solutions. Here, I represent Rospatent as the head of Rospatent, but also more as the head of digital transformation. And my colleagues are all here. And let me give you a simple explanation how with the jumping board so that we can identify the value of IP rights, the scope, and how this may affect the economy in general and, say, GDP numbers. And the first step that we did, of course, was to, as it is usually done today, we didn't know about this service, so we just made a call to the FTES and asked for data for 2020. And if you have accounting records of the commercial companies, and maybe we can try to find something from those reports and statements. And the solution was very simple. Actually, there is a ready-made service in the third edition of Smail where you can simply connect to, and you can download data from that database. I mean, you don't have very clear information about the number of patents or licenses or claims and how much they cost. I mean, you don't have such data open there, but there is some analysis of how many intangible rights are available to a company, and there you can build a trend whether the company is showing and demonstrating downward or upward trends. And this is a service that we have been using for several years now, and the dynamics actually is upward. As the minister mentioned today, yes, in the assets of a company, the share of such IP rights is becoming more and more. And this is a simple example as to how Federal Tax Services data may help find a solution, a nationwide solution of identifying opportunities for investment into IP. And we're going to continue working with the FTS, and we are striving for more specific data, not so that general data may be transformed into something specific, so that all those trends and dependencies be more visible, and so that we can understand where we are now. Because so far the picture is very broad and generalistic. There was another example given as to how we can interact with Rosakkreditacja and Rospatent, and we discussed that as well. There's a federal project of proactive work and ecocentric projects, but working proactively without, data from the other ministries and agencies is very hard. Proactivity means a transformation, and without transformation there will be no proactivity. But where to start? We thought that we need to be proactive in piloting a service that will help extend the protection term for trademarks. I mean, you would think it is quite simple to extend the term of protection, but if you dissect the process, you would understand that we will need information about the very IP right and about the trademark, and then we need to know about the date of registration of such a right and the date of expiration and the term, and where we need to start extending the term of protection, so that we would be shelling, if you like, the owner to do something to extend the term, and how much it would cost to extend the term, what would be the size of the duty, of the patent duty, whether the patent is overdue and the term is breached or not. So many such nuances. For example, have there been any changes in passport data or in the name of the owner, etc.? And you don't want to really reach out to the owner for that. You would really want to use a database and only send a link for payment of the duty. And all such data are collected today, and we do understand that this is not an easy job. Another example, if you like, the way we manage data. I can see some hands there in the back of the room, and I will take questions a bit later, if I may. And just some more examples. You all appreciate the fact that Rospatent is providing public services and is facing about 300,000 queries a year. But to manage those, we need to have data on IP so that we can process such claims, and we need to go into the subject matter of a claim. And I'm not even talking about any standardized databases like individual taxpayer numbers, etc., etc. But to do this expert examination, to really save time for the expert on the one hand, and for the applicant to file an application for a patent, being convinced that this development, this idea is a novelty, some innovation, is of a revolutionary nature. This is the, if you like, the outside perimeter. But where do you take data to prove this or that? And again, many of the owners of some processes and patents are foreign companies, and many of those are planning to leave or left. And Rospatent has access to a database, and we are an experienced player internationally, and we have agreements with most of the patent offices across the world that we can develop, we can retrieve such data. And we do have a proper search engine, which is not really robbing anyone, but we're just getting information about the patents, and we are putting up a single storage for such data and are creating a search engine or a platform. And this platform is using this global pool of data, and that is available to inventors, to entrepreneurs, and to our experts in the agency to take well-informed decisions. Now, if you take data and patent data, then of course such data can be used and put into data sets, and this is something that we are pursuing quite actively. There's proper instructions from the government. There is competition between the departments who would be the best in terms of using the artificial intelligence. Why? Why do we need that? The inventors and experts work with the same data massive, but they have the proper vocabulary, and they need to use proper language for the data queries. And to avoid any confusion, when we, for example, offer a formula of an invention or a referral or a description of the invention, you first use the neural networks to do the search, both along the outside perimeter and inside it. And we have about 80% accuracy of the hits, and the 20% left to match an invention to whatever is available is the expert judgment. And but of course this takes less time, and thanks for that we reduce the time but do not lose quality. And AI in this case works to our benefit, to the benefit of the expert examination.
It provides high precision and good quality of selection of intellectual property. objects or providing referrals and references to then make proper decision of issuing the patent or refusal. This is one of the examples of handling data sets. We will improve this work, and together with the Ministry of Education and Science, we will come to a solution which would allow us to generate general data sets with R&D data in them, and our patent databases will be combined in a joint data set and enrich the knowledge about scientific results, improve or give more efficiency to our scientific results due to the better understanding of patent and disclosed and developed solutions all over the world. This kind of work with data happens in Rospatent. Very often it boils down to interagency interaction, but initially in the first stage we can see for us as the task to provide data which is so needed for our inventor, for our scientists, provide full access to this data, convenient interface, and all APIs which we've already presented in this layout, in the pilot layout which already exists on Rospatent portal. Please, you're welcome. You can join it. Moscow already piloted it. Moscow Innovation Cluster already uses it and sees a rapid growth of our user database. Thank you. A great job was done, really, by all participants of our round table. I'd like to add a little bit from myself personally. You are speaking about the Ministry of Education and scientific organizations involved in inventories and in inventions. And business also has own developments for non-material assets, which is included or not included in their capitalization. Here they need the information to federal tax authority, and these assets should be checked. Since we have the discussion, I'd like to continue, and I have to tell you that especially FTS will be the source of information to replenish our data, to get the data about the deals with the IP rights. Probably this is a black box so far, and we have to understand what is there within the borders of your data sets. But we do hope to get something which we lack in our data sets. We launched a very serious work. Everyone is speaking about the importance of developing IP area handling, such as evaluation and pledge. In both cases, it is necessary to understand how can we organize the balance accounting of all these assets. And even if we take it on balance, the question is how much is the trademark, how much is the IP right object. How to put it on balance is the question to the accounting department. There are methodological difficulties in this area, otherwise there wouldn't be so many disputes about it. The thing we've launched, the thing we've intended to do in the working order, because we haven't invented a nice name for that, we call it a royalty database. These are averaged data distributed by codes and MPK codes or QUED codes and classification of different means. These are average data about the transactions with the intellectual property rights. It's like in zakupki.ru, in procurement database, we have to be based on something, some market analysis. Some market analysis can be just taken out of the blue, or it can be based on certain means, certain data about the real deals, and we'd like to bring it to the end, at least MVP. The colleagues would say and would support me. We were taught by it on the training courses, at least MVP. That's something we can start from. We can show how it works, how efficient it is, and find some shortcomings, of course, shortcomings in terms of lacking data. Again, sorry for this, that I keep saying about the data, but this is the key thing here. And then afterwards, we can provide a viable solution to develop the market of intellectual property rights. That's just a small attachment from my side. On my opinion, it's going to be a very useful solution to assess the cost of intellectual property rights, because non-material asset comes, then the commission is being evaluated. Experts see and take a look at the market, take a look at the accounting data. The cost is equal to the price in the market. We can check it at Yandex Market, or we can check it with Rospatent as an authorized government authority. Rospatent can give the reference whether it's a fair price or not. And the fair price is mentioned as a basis of getting it on the balance. Next question, which I'd like to address to Alexander Solovyov and to you, Yuri, and to you, Pavel, if you may. As for non-digital services, we speak about digital services, providing digital services to the citizens, to the business, and interaction with them. If we take a look at the whole chain of owning material, non-material assets, digital services combined of, there is a basis for quality assessment by cost, by impact, and prime cost of services, and also determining the quality of the service itself. We have the consumer and we have the contractor, the supplier. Our agencies are agencies able to organize also digital services, not only procurement services. I hope I understood your question. Rosaccreditatia is not dealing with the assessment of digital services. For me, it's difficult to say. Well, it's hardly possible that we could make a service evaluation with Rosaccreditatia. But, for example, Rosaccreditatia brings to the market the following things. So from the consumer point of view, we do not bring our services to the very end to make it possible for every individual to get used to it. We provide it on our website. You can find it there. But our goal to bring up the following model in terms of checking the declarations and certificates. We have a certain pilot project. We collect from the retail the pack of documents in our database plus GTIN or barcode, which is placed on the goods from their side, and we should get this link between these 2 points in order to implement our service. That using a GTIN, the document could be found in our system, and some information could be brought up to the screen in terms of the place of origin, cost, and description of goods. But our service stops there. And if it is useful, it would be useful. Those organizations which would bring it to the end user, or the retailers can set up some application for their purposes. Or, well, like we discussed it with Moscow government, for the Moscow citizens, we can provide the service of scan GTIN when you come to the store. But as for the end user services, probably it shouldn't be the public authority to provide, but the organization should provide it, which is fine-tuned for client-centric operation and can fine-tune it in terms of usability. Our goal is to present an API which can, as fast as possible and as sure as possible, provide data to be used by end users and customers. But if we say that we need to work with the end user, I think it's not the job of the authority, the public authority, but the job of the business, which directly interacts with clients, because we don't have the proper feedback in the scope which is needed for that. And if we evaluate services, we should evaluate services from this satisfaction point of view of end user, whether they like it or not like it, whether they use those services or not, and not from the technical novelties and algorithms which are embedded in those services. For the end services, it doesn't matter whether there is AI or not. The most important for the user is to use it conveniently and as fast as possible, get necessary information. And the fact how it is built, this is a secondary thing here. Well, this is about the liking or disliking, whether it works or doesn't. Someone should protect either the business from this user terrorism, or users protect from non-quality or low-quality services. We have a lot of meetings with Alexander Auzan. He is the part of he's a big part in our programs, and he organized the consumer protection organization in 1998, and we just discussed it last week. There's no mechanism to protect rights, to protect digital rights. That's why I asked this question. Maybe you will have any ideas in this regard. Pavel, you wanted to comment? Yes, I'd like to comment on the questions and share with you how it happens in our agency. We do our best to protect rights of our users, and if we take an example of personal accounts of taxpayers, we have a web version of these accounts, so we have mobile apps, and we very carefully monitor all these spheres, and we are able to provide feedback. We have good processes of handling this feedback. For us, it's very important to see what scores we have in our stores, for our applications, and this can be received not by technical means but by handling the feedbacks. Because what users write in the services about our mobile apps is considered by our support services in many stages, not if not at the first stage, so in the second stage or third stage, and all negative feedback is taken into account, and we provide measures to correct the situation and to get the customer as satisfied as possible. And in this regard, we see the right protection of our users. The users can use it free of charge. Of course, they spend their time and their mobile traffic for that, or PC traffic for that, but nevertheless, they get the service which, on our opinion, they praise high, and the scores closer to 5 is an indication of people's love to our services. If we speak digital services, this work is organized at the systematic level there. I'd like to add a few words too. I wouldn't say that we have a lot of apps in stores, unfortunately. But we will bring it back to the end. We have this in our tasks, among our tasks for next years, and in the program of digital transformation. And for us, as for us patent agency providing governmental services, it's not a digital indicator, but an indicator of electronic applications. When we started to implement this project at different technologies and on different platforms, we piloted those services in trademarks. We managed to bring it up from 20% to 50%. Now we have already 90%. 90% of all applications are filed in a digital format. Whether this service is convenient, user-friendly, whether this form of application is good for the client, because it changes the concept of interaction, and the interaction with the client, with our applicant, when doing it digital, happens much more efficient and much faster in terms of the the trade notes, I can't tell you whether these will be the same. Of course, the invention or the design is a different thing, but it will be similar. A number of services like registration of databases and software. This is absolutely online story. There is no expertise. There are formal requirements for expertise, which we embed in the automated audits, and if everything is compliant, the applicant gets the confirmation immediately. Here you go, you have the confirmed registration and you can use it further on. These non-digital factors so far are fixed by us as an indicator, as a KPI of convenience or non-convenience of established and developed services. I know that there is an advanced marker system, and we hope that very soon, at least this year, we will place all our key services there, and we will get this experience for ourselves. We will become part of this team of or group of state authorities who work with their applicants not only based on letters or other communication means, but especially on the digital level. We will be able to see whether our agency satisfies the needs of our clients. I think this would be a solution there. Based on the digital traces they leave in handling with Rospatent. Yes, you're absolutely right. A few words about changing the ways of working, the client-centric approach. We asked clients directly whether it's convenient or not. We are monitoring how they use our services. Colleagues, please, can you tell me how much the model changed, the operating model changed, or management model changed, and the way of working changed, starting from the big data handling, whether big data impacted the organization of this work in general. Pavel, please, can you start? A good question. Well, the answer is rather obvious. But we should start from the problem. When big data come up, some convenient ways of handling them, it become difficult. For instance, if we know how to analyze data in Excel, when data measured in millions or billions of lines, Excel won't work. We will need new tools. And so by making the scale more and more complicated, it's being complicated by the functionality which is growing, and there is always a need. What is to be done about it? It always comes to a point when old ways don't work. For example, keeping descriptions of data in the data setting format. Okay, if we have 100 descriptions of this kind to understand how data work, we need to read at least these descriptions. That's problem number one. After we brought it all together, structured it all in one place, it become easier to read. It had help for some time. Then we come to a next stage. We should bring all the data to a data lake, structure them in this data lake, and to reuse them quickly afterwards. And this method doesn't work anymore. We need to move on to another method. We need to have meta information about this data in instruction block. In this case, we build up a meta block. We start describing those data in a combined format and work with the data lake. Well, and so on. Of course, the tasks we get, one thing is to follow them up, whether taxes are coming or not. This is obviously a simple task, but it is combined with the bulk of other processes which helps taxpayers to execute their duties, but there are also analytical tasks, data analytics, transactional tasks are a little bit different in terms of approaches to solve them. For transactional tasks in operating activities, it's very important to take into account quickly different data, to set up the tasks for executors and measure statuses on them.
And you will be able to see any delays, if any. But when we come to the phase of analysis, such approaches cannot be used directly. You need to have well-described, structured data storage from which you can retrieve consistent data, because any conclusions made on the basis of such data would be improper, and the quality of data over various periods and maybe if you have some data that is not prompt, and all of that would affect analytics and managerial decisions, hence may also be improper. So data quality is the most important thing now, as we understand, and we need to really be very thorough about data quality. Yes, we are more or less building an MDM system which would help us trace and manage data quality. We now have the data verification profiles, over 100 of those. We are taking crosscuts from those. We see the erroneous decisions, and we are normalizing data with the other data sets, and we are verifying whether data have changed. So the process is about turning bad data into good data, so that data could be consistent and have some integrity. Now we are in the mode of self-service for data. When you want to, when you need to really offer data, but there are also other data safety issues there. Just whether we can send such data, whether data are really anonymous, they don't have any personal data incorporated. So these new tasks really change the way we operate data. Well, it is a more difficult life, but a more interesting one. You know, if you measure this mathematically, of course, complexity is there because you have more plays, more algos, and from this point of view, mathematically speaking, life is more complex. In terms of speed, yes, we now act much faster in terms of releasing data, and this very difficult COVID-19 period really made us to work faster. Ross Patent, how did you change? Well, I should say that big data and the big data handling skills, these are things that have two facets. On the one hand, you can find a faster solution. On the other hand, your life has become more difficult because you will see how many new thoughts you can and ideas you can implement through such new tools. This difficult feeling of some ideas not being implemented is pressing, and of course complexity is not about making your life difficult, but the difficulty is in using such data, right, so that you can maximize the outcome. And this is where we work every day, and we have almost daily brainstorms to decide whether we use the interdepartmental data and the other data that are being made available in the right way, so that it will simplify the services and reduce the time of such a service provision. And this is the difficulty, how to rebuild the whole chain of offering public services. This is the process-oriented approach, so that you can reassemble the service anew. And this is the difficulty, and for that you need good quality data that many confirm here. And this is not an easy task to get such good quality data. Well, it is also about the mass effect. If you take Ross patent, then if you take some new areas of your operations, maybe they're not really new, but if you take researchers, those are quite restrained people, and they're used to working with some imperfect systems and imperfect APIs. But if you take a look at museums and the Ministry of Culture, and you would say that, okay, now you can use ROS patent to provide digital protection of articles of art, and then people who are in the business of performances and theatrical activities, then they might probably be thinking about this mass effect. Maybe it would also help new insight and new ideas for ROS patent to be more emotional, if you like, and bright. And of course, all of that would help us. The fact that in the Ministry of Culture people are doing the same, and I know that they're doing that, and our counterparts there probably know at least as good as ourselves how to resolve those tasks. And in terms of the creative part of our business, without any insult to the inventors, these people are into the serious business, and they are creative, but they are creative in exact sciences, and the more creative they are, the more competitive would be the product of creation and innovation. This is a good, really, thing for the future, because the products do define the markets rather than vice versa. And of course, competition would give birth to some technical solutions, but something intrinsic is about the product. That is, you have a technology, a new technology, and you have a response to such a technology, and you will have a market. Yes, this is something that exists even today, and usually these needs are driven, but this creativity of the author, of the creator of a technology, is often dictated by his or her talents, and by his or her life experiences, and by his or her desire to bringing something new. Now, in Rostad, do you have any new models of handling big data? Maybe you saw something, saw good prospects and vistas for that, and this is still an open gestalt, and you really want to implement something new and to see the result of this something new. In terms of the quality of data, I would probably say that a key aspect that we should pay attention to is indeed the quality of data, because on the basis of such data you would have to make a decision, and if there's an error inside such data, it may cause bad consequences, but also accessibility of data. Sometimes when we do the analytics, we analyze our own data, but we also request data from other ministries and agencies, using, for example, data from the frontiers, and that the crossing point of various data sets, you have analytics, and the processes did change, and even the decision-making process changed. And here I can say that aside from those changes, we have some new players, analytics, for example, analysts, and we have a new process in place now when a task of a civil servant can be transplanted to the person who is doing the analytics, and the data handlers usually are people from that category of creative people, and the colleagues would confirm that. And matching those two communities, two groups, it requires separate training, so that it can all culminate in a good result, because a task poorly set produces bad analytics, and we have to resolve those. In terms of creativity, all the creativity today is about the digital services, and anything that is about the use of services, and there you should be thinking about the use of such data by the legal entities who are registered with us and who use the certificates and other data sets. I know that we are all involved into several good projects, and where our work is about that, there we want to be more creative. And if you take also data analysis models, there's no description anywhere that you can find to read how the process should be construed. And these are all about innovative solutions, and almost every day you have to have those small brainstorms, and we always more or less look at our data sets and see whether there are any associated data sets that may give birth to new data analytics. And comparing data sets may really generate some breakthroughs, or maybe not exactly breakthroughs, but from the point of view of analytics, it can give you very good results in terms of the speed of decision making. And of course, data should be of high quality and should be accessible. And creativity is anything about your interaction, your interface with the outside world, because in-house, we are very well regulated. Colleagues, I think we have time just for very brief comments, or maybe questions. Yes, indeed. Vladimir Yurteev, I'm president of the National Chamber for Industrial Things, and a member of the Council of the Russian Union of Industrialists and Entrepreneurs. Of course, I would agree with you that it is important to provide training to patent professionals, and we are soon going to have a pool of those professionals, and we train more and more people. But I wonder who is training technological brokers, because people are saying that this is what we have and this is what we have, but who is going to go into the market to sell something? That's a salesperson who knows nothing about the technologies, but knows a lot about selling. And I think that it is important to train entrepreneurs who are actually the technological brokers, who can have their patents to go out and provide such services. I'm sorry, what is your question about? Question is, who would be requesting the people who may help to sell something? So that the machine would be running, but the machine would be running only when you would have a carrot hanging in front of that machine. And the second question, the 90 years of the Russian Society for Intellectual Property, that's a good thing. We all congratulated that society, but sometimes you miss something. In the Soviet times, you had millions of inventors, etc. You had some system in place to manage that, but there was a time when the Russian Society, Soviet Society of Intellectual Rights was under the trade unions. And I was thinking whether this can be transplanted to our today's realities, whether we can think altogether that trade unions were a school of communism. Now we can call them the school of capitalism, but we can ask trade unions to, take under their umbrella, though that's society of rationalization and inventions. Perhaps I should come to the second point and the second question. And I'm afraid that we cannot really delegate that to the trade unions. The minister today said that we should have in the companies some professionals who can protect intellectual property and rights. And so the contractor, the customer, is there already. But who should be regulating that, and who should really decide whether to mandate trade unions to assume the tasks of managing any discoveries, inventions, and ideas? This you may discuss with some others, but today on the agenda, I think there's a more topical question of how to breathe a new life into this society of inventors, and how to use the current network and have support from the regional governments. And indeed, in the regions, in the provinces of Russia, we need to deploy the IP protection systems. And I think that we need really to establish this whole vertical of IP protection with this very important additional link of working with the inventors and also working with putting those inventions into commercial use. But indeed, the professionals are being trained today by the market, and we don't have enough of them. We have several training courses available from various broker associations. In Russia, we also have the National Association of Technologies, which is really pushing forward such training, but there's no any systemic effort. And you raised this question, but I'm not sure that I can give you an answer. But I'm happy to really engage into a dialogue with you, because there are some agencies that were represented during our today's plenary meeting that would have some interest in such an initiative. By the way, when we were talking about the creative community of inventors, we need to have some incentives in place for people to be creative and to be inventive. How to push people towards putting this into this creative invention channel. Colleagues, maybe I have a question for you. when would be a time when we would be able to accumulate the capacity of big data? We would have a seamless integration of efforts of various departments. And are we going to see some breakthrough? And when do you think?
Pavel, Alexander, please. I'm going to be based on their forecast. Alexander, the floor is yours, please. Well, look, I won't be able to give you the specific date when the breakthrough will happen. It's difficult. Of course, we see every day, see new opportunities for data exchange, and for sure the process going on. If we, speak about a serious breakthrough when the data will be available somewhere in the cloud, and the colleagues from the Ministry of Digital promise to us before 2024. But then 1 year will be needed to learn how to use those data. I think in the horizon of 3 years, some successful story will happen that we will see. And we do see some results already now, I think it's good, and we will see more. We keep developing, we are keeping the pace, and I already was thinking about 2025 for myself, but you hit almost the same date. Pavel? Well, I don't know, we haven't decided about any disruptive point. There are strategic plans to 2030. We have smaller plans, local plans of digital transformation for the nearest 3 years. But we clearly understand that the breakthroughs will contribute to some probably invisible things, but very important, like migration to digital document turnover. This is the concept which is under implementation. Implementing the machine-readable proxy or power of attorney, which is functioning already in a non-compulsory mode. Starting from next year, it will be widely available. Using the Electronic Digital Signature Institute issued by the Federal Tax Authority with providing all safety communication means. Such things contribute to this major breakthrough, like emerging legal resources when data exchange is going unnoticed, like EBR ZAG's service. This service provides digital data to system operators for the governmental service portal, but it happens invisible for the citizen, for the user. If you set the tick box, you pull up this data automatically. You shouldn't do anything additionally. Such things are supporting our breakthrough in relations between the participants from both sides, from the government side and from the business side. And inside, it allows to release resources for creative and intellectual work, because the work of a tax officer is not only about technical things, but also intellectual things, how to improve the services, how to help taxpayers to get proper services faster, and how to exclude any issues in places, how to properly build up processes. We wish we spent more time for creative things to make our work better. Yuri, very short notice from my side. We in Rospatent are ready to provide it before 2025. But I'm sure, even taking into account this uneasy situation also in IT, it seriously impacts the readiness and any forecasts in this area. Even given this situation, if we take this visionary approach, 2025, in my opinion, is a realistic date, realistic figure. It's doable, and finally we can solve the issues with data and significantly improve our results. Well, we received the similar dates from all four experts. Thank you very much for this vivid and interesting discussion. We had a lot of conclusions, and I think that big data analytics and splitting the data between agencies is one of the key tasks which allows us to improve efficiency and make services absolutely invisible, seamless for all of us, for all our citizens and users. And the colleagues confirmed that data changes and the ways and methods of operating the organization and agencies, and in principle it impacts all of us as users of public services and interact with state and governmental functions. Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank the moderator. It's very difficult for him to get practical maximum kind of information and expression with such small panel of speakers. So let's give a hand to our moderator today. Thank you.